Yeah, it's one of the biggest collapses I've seen, innit? It's hard not to get face on about it. Um, I mean, you've got 100 runs, 8 wickets, and to throw it away like that, you know, top order. Well, I mean, we've been aiding for 2 years that Crawley's been prepared for this, and I'm not seeing it. I'm just not seeing it, you know. Football. Go on then. So, first derby of the season then, Wednesday against United down at Hillsborough. And, well, nothing we didn't expect really. Certainly before the game, the bookies were offering evens on United, which was giving away money. You know, I mean, I could never bet against Wednesday. It's not something I can do. I couldn't live with me saying it. But if you're a gambling man, you know, that's the easiest money you'll ever win this weekend. As I said, giving money away with them odds. And I think if you're looking build up to the game, the signs were there, how easy it was going to be. I think one of the things that gave it away to me was listening to the managers talk in the week that were on Radio Sheffield. Certainly listening to Wilder, who strayed away from his usual, you know, poor Sheffield United routine, the humble club who can't get a break bit, and he was very complimentary about Wednesday and talking about what a historical club we were and this sort of and if he thought there was any chance that this game was in doubt, I don't think he would be doing that. I think he'd be, you know, as I said, giving it the usual dialogue and the history of Sheridan and Wadleyhurst and, you know, all that bit. So I think that was a bit of a giveaway for me that he knew that this was going to be points in the bag, because like everyone else, he will have seen the video footage of Wednesday's games this season. He will have seen what's in his squad, and he will have known that as poor as they've been this season, that squad is in a false position for the quality that they've got, and that if they could get at Wednesday in the right areas, you know, it'd be points in the bag. And that's, as a Wednesday supporter, that's sad to say, but that's the facts of the matter, you know, as they stand. I mean, we haven't won a game in 10. We haven't won a home game all season. We haven't won a home game all season. So, the fact we're playing United, as I said, in a bit of a false position, and as poor as the results have been, this game was never really in doubt, if we're perfectly honest. Henrik Pedersen, I mean, what can he do with a squad that the couple of players he has got in there that are fit and willing? You know, they've been away on international duty. I mean, Jan Valery spent midweek marking Vinicius Junior, you know, and then he's having to come back into a derby game. He looked a little bit tired, but, you know, they all look quite tired in there, to be honest with you. And I said before game, so I write my notes for my reviews, and I did review last week, and I always scribbled what's next match, and I'd got down for United for the 2-0 win, so no great surprise to me really, how things turned out. Let's have a quick look at the teams. Wednesday, Hovarth in goal, back three of Palmer, Iorfa and Max Lowe, the fullbacks Frazier and Amas, Valery and Bannon in midfield, and Ingleton and Jamal Lowe supporting Ike Ugbo up front. As for the visitors, Cooper in goal, a back four of Sariki, Tanganga, me and McCallum, midfield four, sort of 4-4-2 in a fashion, Brooks, Peck, Redwald, God, he sounds like a Viking warrior, and Bucky O'Hare, with Ings and Campbell up front. So Wednesday, you know, there's not many changes that Henrik Pedersen can make in there. Obviously, we've signed Cooper in the week. I think he'll be a decent signing for us. I've talked to some Leeds fans who are, you know, said, well, he passed his best, you know, when he had to go, and it's understandable. He was playing that high intensity that he played under Bielsa there. But Wednesday, it's simply a case of getting bodies in the door. He's probably going to be a bit ring rusty, and they probably thought it was a game too soon for him. We hear this phrase, he's been keeping himself fit, but there's a huge difference between keeping fit and match fitness, match sharpness. So probably understandable that he didn't get a start straight away. I would say that the one surprise in there is Ike Ugbo starting up front. Young Cadamarteri's obviously been away, flown back from the West Indies, so maybe there's a little bit of that involved in the thinking. But I've got to be honest, at this stage, even an half-fit Cadamarteri suffering from jet lag, I think would offer more. But other than that, if you look at the team, not really much else Wednesday can do. There's, I've seen arguments, and it's something I've said myself. Perhaps you could stick Ingleson up front. He puts him centre back. He's physical and he's an handful and whatever. And I've seen the argument for getting Lowe out to wing back and maybe getting a mass into an attacking left side position, maybe off the striker or whatever. But the truth of the matter is, however he shuffles his deck, that is literally rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. We've got a 12, a 13, and that's it. There's not much else he can do with that. Right, to the game. Hey, fucking hell. First 5 minutes, it's not actually a bad, decent opening spell from Wednesday. They have a little bit of a go of it. Down left-hand side, a mass. And I actually think the players aren't going to come out today with any credit at all, but I thought Jamal Lowe in that first 10, he looked like he were quite up for it. He had a couple of decent runs down left-hand side, and sort of got blocked out there or didn't have a man in the box to aim for. But those two, quite a bright start. And that was the only chance that Wednesday had. We conceded a lot of goals. I think we've conceded more goals than anyone else in the division. Was it 31 goals we've conceded? The only chance Wednesday have in games is if they scored a first goal. That is the only chance we've got of picking up points. So we have an half decent start. It's quite lively. But then the truth is, as soon as United scored on, I think it's the 11th minute, that's game over. It's as simple as that. That is game over. Because Wednesday haven't got the quality or the depth or the confidence, I think, at this stage to be able to come from goals down against teams. We can talk about that miracle the other year against Peterborough, but it's a different squad. There's been so many changes since then, and we are down to the bones. So if we'd got an early goal, we could have made a fist of it. As soon as that first goal went in from Campbell, that's game over. And I know that sounds negative. 80 minutes left on clock or whatever it is, but as a realist, anyone watching that knew that was game dead and buried. Wednesday caught sort of fannying about a little bit at the back. Aware gets the ball after it's won back. Nice little eyes, he's looking that way. Little ball there. And Campbell, intelligent play because he's gone out and come back in. Slots it across goal. I think it takes a slight touch. Not enough to deflect it, but I think it takes a slight touch to sort of wrong foot keep it a little bit. It's a good finish. It's the best part. The best part of that goal is the play by O'Hare. It was a really lively play. I really liked him at Coventry, and he was the sort of player I was worried about today, to be honest with you. So they're 1-0 up. There's 80 minutes to go, and anyone who's watched any Wednesday performances so far this season knew that was game over. Sad but true. Now, a couple of minutes later, went sloppy again. Wednesday, there's a very casual back pass from Iorfa. I don't know what it's meant to be. I don't know if he's trying to get it to keeper, if he's trying to get it to Lowe and he's hit it wrong side of him. Ings gets in. Olvarth gets down, makes a very good save, to be perfectly honest. That probably should be 2-0. I think Ings would fancy himself 9 times out of 10 in that position. And as I said, at this stage, it's just a case of you sat there and thinking, well, how many? Genuinely, how many? Iorfa sort of makes up for that weak back pass earlier on. it's a little ball over the top. Campbell uses his shoulders, good body strength. And I sometimes think that's easier against a gangly lad. I mean, I'm a midget myself. But I know when I played, I enjoyed them shoulder battles against taller lads. I think they're easier to knock off balance. But he gets away there, Campbell, and Iorford actually does really well to get back and sort of get one of them long Inspector Gadget legs around him and knock ball away. Because he goes down, and then we know he's suffered with back problems for a while. And after that, you know, it's every 2 minutes you can see he's holding his back and that he's not going to be able to probably carry on. And I've seen a theory going round that, you know, he always wants to get subbed off when he's having a bad game, but I'm not seeing that. I think you want to stay out park, and I think if you just want a challenge like that, or an interception, or a tackle, or however you want to call it, I think that sort of lifts you a little bit actually, rather than the other way around. But he goes off to be replaced with Cooper, who, you know, got his debut a lot quicker than he will have been expecting. United at that stage looking really comfortable on ball. You know, they got the lad Brooks on one side. As I said, O'Hare is a player that I've always been impressed with. And the truth is, we can't get near to him in midfield. They've got it. You know, they've got Brooks, they've got O'Hare, they've got the kid in the middle with sort of braids and with sort of Viking name, and Peck's in there, and it's working as a little sort of. It's always like a little box. It reminded me a bit of how Sachi used to have his Milan team playing. They played with that little sort of square in midfield, didn't they? And they were always on second ball in there. You know, obviously different levels. Don't get me wrong. I'm not comparing him to that great Milan side, but I mean the structure of the midfield, the way that it was set up with that. So there's always a passing option, you know, and there'll be some criticism on Wednesday today that they didn't work hard enough in there and this and other. But you know, you've got a 34-year-old Bannon playing with his legs strapped up. You've got Jan Valery, who's a fullback playing in there, doing his best, and as I said, just spent his week off marking Vinicius Junior, and they're sort of outnumbered in there. They're outnumbered. There's always a passing option for United. So as poor as Wednesday were, I'm not going to slag them off too much in that sense. I thought United moved ball well, and they always seem to have the extra body in there. Forwards, Ings had a bit of a sniff. It was rolled offside. The ball into, I think it was Brooks, the ball into, but whoever it was in midfield absolutely pinged it into him, you know. And it was a confidence pass. You don't make them passes unless you're confident that your teammate can take control of it. I remember years back, under it in a pass, and our gaffer saying to me, "Don't roll that across there." He went, "Get that pinged." And he went, "And if he can't control it over end," he went, "I'll be on his back, not yours." He went, "Do never under it a pass." And that sub's always stuck with me. Ping your pass. Well, that kid pinged that. He took it down really well, got it across, and Ings were offside, and I think the kid behind him were as well. But getting into them areas, and it's about runs, isn't it? He was offside in that position there, but then I compared that to what we've got, you know, and it's strikers getting in box. You know, on another day, Ings would have had 2 or 3 goals today. Look at the goals that Campbell's got. You know, obviously I'll get to the second half later, but it's runs into the box. And Wednesday, I'm afraid, and I don't want to come down to too hard on players because you know, the squad is what it is. But the ball comes back, and I've just talked about United playing with that sort of, let's call it a box-shaped midfield. So they've always got an option. So Wednesday midfield lads in there, Bannon, Valery, Ingleson and Lowe, when they sort of drop in, they've got the work cut out already. So when the ball does go up front, it's got to stick up there. And Wednesday's footplay, it doesn't stick up there. It doesn't stick up there. And Compared again the forwards, and I'm looking at, Ings, Campbell. Later on in game, Bamford comes on. They all get in our side. They all get in our side. Cannon. I mean, any one of them four gets in our team, and I'm sure that Henrik Pedersen would lose an arm to have one of them. But it is. Honestly, I don't really like digging it, but it is like playing with 10 men. You've got to have the ball stick up front. It's got to hold, and it done, And what they got with all their strikers today, I think Ings, even despite his age, but certainly Campbell, is you've got to be willing to get in behind as well. You've got to that awareness to play on the shoulder and be ready to spin. We ain't got that. And I've talked all season about that lack of connectivity up front and final ball, final pass. But sometimes, is it final ball and final pass, or is it the real poor quality of our movement up front? But I'll talk about some great movement up front when we talk about second half. But certainly, in terms of strikers, there was, I've got a bit of envy about what they got. To be honest with you, it's a poor Wednesday performance. Now, I haven't been online because I know what it's like after a derby game, especially when you've lost. People are pissed up and they're angry, so there'll be a lot of over-the-top things. I know. I did hear today, he's a fucking third division player, he'll never be a championship player, whatever, he's got an hole in his arse, and blah, blah, and it's... Well, yeah. But what else? What? With the exception, possibly, of up front, where we made the odd change week from week. The rest of that team picks itself. So I'm not going to say who he was talking about, but yeah, it might be a third division player. It might be best, that player can never hope to aspire to. But it's what we've got. That is what we've got. It reminded me a lot of years ago when Wednesday was sort of faced in this shit when we first came out from Premier. We got that big 17 million debt like a millstone round neck, And I got a season ticket with a couple of mates of mine. We were on COP then. And there was a kid who used to sit so diagonally in front of me. And every week, Ashley Westwood shit. That's every week. Every single week. And I'm not typed to say anything as a rule. Ashley Westwood shit. And then one week and it was every week. And Ashley Westwood's wank. And I just went, we know. But we can't do out about it. Manager can't do out about it. We can't sign any fucker. He's wank, but he's what we've got. Just sitting there every week saying he's wank. It's not going to change anything. So yes. And I imagine there's been a lot of that going on today. So for obvious reasons, that being it, I have avoided online after the game. So I've not been on Twitter or out like that. But we're stuck with what we've got. That's the fact of the matter. We're stuck with what we've got. As I said, game were over on 11 minutes. As soon as they scored, there's no way back. We know we're not going to score. We don't create it last third. Goal scoring opportunity. I mean, we don't get shots in. But and I'm sure Henrik Pedersen's probably coming in for some hammer. I don't know, but it will be because it's United and people get upset about losing to him and whatever. But there's a gulf in quality of the two squads. So all I'm thinking at 1-0, and people might think I'm negative, I'm just thinking, mate, don't let it be a cricket score. I don't think we're going to score. I don't think there's any chance in the world we're going to get back into this game and make it one apiece. But don't embarrass yourselves. And they score straight after the break. It's Campbell again. It's a loose sort of ball forward. Ed, I think it's Cooper with Ed. And I don't know if it's Peck or where one of their lads. He's sort of falling over as he sort of knocks it through gap. This is what I talked about before. Campbell's on his bike before that pass comes. That ball gets knocked into that gap. Their lad's sort of making his way towards it, and he's already on his bike. He don't know if it's going to get there, but that's what good strikers do. Gamble. Now, you could make that run 20 times and that ball never comes, and you can chuck your arms in there. Why am I making these runs? Well, you're making them runs for that time when it does come, and that's what he's done. And then he does another good thing. And as I said, I don't want to dig Ugbo out too much. Kids have obviously got zero confidence, but what you see from Campbell there is the quality that he's got, because he's running in. And I know I've talked to one or two United fans who said that, Tyrese Campbell's got some fitness issues or what have you. So he gets in. Max Lowe is catching him. So, maybe them fitness issues are something. But fitness issues don't affect that. He knows Lowe's catching him. So he changes his running angle. He knows Lowe's coming in. So he runs right across front of him. But that's great centre forward play for 3 reasons. First reason is it slows Max Lowe down. Slows him down completely. Secondly, it takes away any tackling angle that Lowe might have had to try and retrieve the ball. And thirdly, it means that any contact whatsoever, he's got every right to chuck himself on the floor. So just that, having a look, he's catching me and changing your run to go across front of him. 3 things it does. Buys a penalty if needed, stops him having a good tackling angle, and slows him down from getting goal side. Great centre forward play. Puts it across goal. Nice finish, whatever. But it's the play before the shot that impresses me. Just aware. First it's the gamble. Will that ball come? I'm going. If it does come, I'm going to be on it. Then when he's getting caught, just that awareness. Slow him down. Might need penalty. It's good centre forward play, and it's exactly what we haven't seen. We haven't seen that for levels. It's levels. I know everybody's going to be upset today, but it's levels. Ings, Bamford, Campbell, Cannon, they all get in this team. They're all getting this Wednesday side. We just don't have that. That's the difference, United's having a crap season. People have said to me this week, never be a better time to play him. But there would have been a better time to play him, and that was at the beginning of the season when Sellers were in charge. Certainly not now. I've talked to United fans at work this week, and a lot of them have been saying a similar thing. Performances have been better, maybe not quite having results to match them. So, but this was always on cards. Always on cards. We have a spell. You'd expect us to have a spell, we're home team and what have you, but I think large parts of that is United being comfortable. Then it's 2-0. They've been under no pressure. Cooper's not had a save to make. So they can let us have the ball because they know 2 things. They know that firstly, Wednesday ain't got a final ball. They know that we're not going to get in positions where we're slickering out edge of box. We know we're not going to catch them out and put stuff in behind with strong, aggressive, pacey, hard running, Maybe a different story if we'd got Masaba, Gassama, but we haven't. So they can sit off and say, yeah, have a bit of ball in front of us. And then they have got that pace where they can say, well, we'll let Wednesday have it. And when they get round to edge of our box and run out of ideas, which they always do, because, we've watched the videos of all previous games this season, of which Wednesday haven't won a home game, they'll watch footage of that and then they'll say, right, let's pick them off on counter. And that nearly happened a time or two. I mean, there was one on the right-hand side. It was given offside against Ings. He weren't offside. And I think he'd got a square ball into middle. Might have been Cannon. And that's what they were prepared to do after that. Is try and pick us off on counter. It was as comfortable a game, especially a derby game, as United will have ever had. And at that stage, genuinely, I'm just thinking, don't let it be 4. Don't let it be 4, United, another chance at depth, as I said, there's this, Wednesday's having ball, but at that stage, I'd have said, oh, fuck it, let's not go piling on and get picked off. So let's just make it a fucking shit enter game. That's what I did them personally. Cannon gets in. Olvarth does really well actually, because he gets in and he stays on his feet. He don't go flying out and coming to ground and giving a penalty or selling himself so he can go around him. He stays big till last minute. Bamford comes on. He tried a little sort of half Cruyff sort of. I'm glad he didn't score, because I hate that bastard, me. Which goes back to some. Leeds and Middlesbrough. It was a goal at Leppings Lane, and ball took an awful divot and wrong-footed young Wildsmith, and Bamford were in his face giving it big un when it took a deflection. I could sort of understand if it's a needle game and you've scored a worldie, but A, it was somebody else's goal. 2, it's took a horrific divot, and he's giving it Bertie big bollocks. He's got a right slap of blade in. So as I said, an easy win for United, one which I fully expected. I'd gone for 2-0 before the game, but it's 3-0. Like I said, the bookies backed that up. Wednesday, no winning 10, 31 goals conceded. Can't buy a goal at the other end. Don't look like getting a shot away, and we are what we are. It's a 3-0 defeat. I think if United had been in a more confident frame of mind, it could have been 5 or 6. They had a break at end. It was 6 against 3. Barry Bannon got back. I don't know where every other fucker was. Barry Bannon and Harry Amass got back. I don't know where the rest of the lads were. But that's where we are. You're talking about I know they've lost some players, United, but you're talking about a team with a squad that I would expect to be in the places below Coventry, challenging up their top 5, 6. And obviously I had a better start to the season. Against essentially Wednesday had a League One squad. You've got to look at last season and the season before that. We were struggling. We were in the relegation fight all season long for the last 2 years. And since then we've lost 14 players. Windass, Smith, Hekwe, Masaba, Gassama. I mean, we've lost about 40 odd goals, over the last 6 months, and not replaced him at all. But we're probably a top end, middle in League One squad on paper. And like I said, for me, they're a top 6 side. So 3-0 defeat, I don't think it's any shock whatsoever. I really don't. We've now got, I think, 9 games in the next 30 odd days. It's going to be absolutely harrowing for them players in there. It really is. We'll have to see what crack is with Iorfa's back. As I said, we've got Bannon and Palmer into the mid-30s, having to play week in and week out and do a lot of legwork in there. I think what sums it up best is our best 2 players this season. Bannon's been up there, but I would say the best 2 have been young Ernie Weaver, who's a centre-half out at youth team, and George Brown, who's another kid out at youth team. Probably add to that Harry Amass, who's a lone player, and that tells you the story of where we are. And folks will be angry about this because of who it is, because of who it's against. And there's been a lot of positivity around the club in the last few weeks in terms of getting rid of Voldemort, and prospective new owners coming in, and it's all been sort of fun and games in that sense. A great relief, a great weight off the shoulders. But it doesn't change the fact that on the pitch we have got a League One team, a 3rd Division team. That hasn't changed yet, And until the owners can come in and everything gets ratified, and perhaps they, invest some money in January to try and help us get 1 or 2 bodies in the door, that'll continue to be the case. And, it's been a bit of a pasting today. It could have been a lot worse. But it'll not be the last one, sadly. That's the facts of the matter. We can't keep clean sheets, and we can't score goals, you know. But I'm not gonna go too over the top, gonna town on them, because the squad is what it is. The squad is what it is, and I've probably said it in the last 3 or 4 videos. You can only piss with a cock you've got. I think what sums up today for me, we've got United fans at work, chatting with them, and before game, we're not fancying us chances here, and we're not confident. And after the game, I've not heard from any of them. You know, I mean, they've beat us 3-0 in our own backyard. I'm not sure. I think it might be best of an away score in a Sheffield derby. And so you would expect, in normal circumstances, that my phone would be buzzing, you know, played you off park, blah, blah, blah. I hadn't heard from any of them. And I think that's because certainly the United fans I know will have probably watched that today and thought, fucking hell, they really are in shit. And, you know, some people would say that, you know, the fact that they're not giving me any hammer is even worse. But I think they'll have looked at that and realised, Jesus, yeah,